I walked in, and there she was, hanging. I almost fell backwards. I had seen her many times before, but I knew that seeing her tonight meant that my night was about to be a lot more difficult than I previously thought. Everywhere my father moved, he took her with him. A painting, Gala Nude Abraham Lincoln by Salvador Dali. It is an image of a pasty white woman from the back in front of the head of Abraham Lincoln. That pasty naked white lady was my father's longest relationship, including the one he had with me. And there she was, larger than life, on the wall in the room I was gathering in for an ayahuasca ceremony at my friend's home. I knew that this was Spirit's way of telling me, not so subtly, that tonight was about to be all about my daddy issues. Before I even drank the medicine, I was nauseous. My stomach was swirling with the resentment I had built up over the years for my father. All of the pain, all of the anguish, all of the broken promises had created a potent brew within me. As soon as I took the medicine and the ceremony started, I saw myself as a little girl sitting alone on the floor of a dark living room. There was no furniture, only darkness and sadness. I knew that I was in one of the living rooms of the many houses that my father had, one of the ones in which he promised love, but only provided further rejection. You see, I remember one summer where I was staying at my dad's house and he was handing out allowances to all the kids. And his girlfriend at the time said, "Ow, don't hand Aleya an allowance. Her mother already sucks enough money out of us as it is." Without saying a word, this man took the crumpled $5 bill right out of my hand and gave it to her son. I was about 7 at the time, and I wasn't even mature enough to know what to do or know how to cry properly. I just gave him a weak smile, retreated a little bit further into that room, not wanting to do anything to make myself any less lovable to him. But what I wanted, what I deserved, was for him to say, "You are my daughter. I am standing up for you. No one can tell me how to love you better than I know how to love you. I choose you." But that didn't happen. Instead, with every infraction, I retreated further and further into that dark room. And being in that room had a cost. It kept me from stepping into my power. It kept me from noticing and knowing who my radically authentic self was. The part of me that was innately loved, worthy, whole. I had no idea who she was because I figured at the time, if I could just stay in that room, well then the pain of his absence would comfort me because I couldn't feel the love of his presence. Every missed performance, every callous apology gift, every time this man quit his job to avoid his wages being garnished so he didn't have to pay child support, every infraction embedded in my mind as little Aleya, that I wasn't worthy of his time, of his money, or of his love. luckily, the spirit of ayahuasca had other plans for me. That night, that faded ayahuasca ceremony, the spirit of ayahuasca told me that it was time to write a new narrative. And while little Aleya was still stuck in that prison of that dark room of sadness and resentment, I heard crystal clear the spirit of ayahuasca ask me a question. She asked, "What do you know for sure?" And my biting and truthful response was, "He's never coming to get me." Little Aleya had been waiting in that room for years, waiting for the father of her dreams to scoop her up in his arms and say, "You are worth it. You are valuable. I see you. I choose you." And in that moment, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was never going to happen. So in a rush of emotion, as big Aleya sat up and I began to cry, little Aleya in that dark room got up. She found the exit. And on her small but strong legs, she walked out of her prison, never to return. As big Aleya sat up and I'm crying, I began to convulse. I was purging all of the years of resentment and pain out of my body. I was crying away the prison I had created for myself. In the arms of my husband, I fell into a healing sleep as the tears rolled down my face. And that was the beginning of my forgiveness journey. Every day after that, I made it my mission to locate, to get to know, to become inextricably linked to my radically authentic self, the self that didn't have to worry about being loved or loving. It already knew that it was. I spoke forgiveness into a candle for myself, my father, little Aleya. I wrote letters that I never sent to my father, to myself, to the woman that I became, thanking them for their lessons, forgiving them for their transgressions, and taking accountability for my role in creating my own pain and transformation. I became acutely aware of the St. Augustine quote that resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Forgiveness is the antidote to resentment. The more forgiveness I felt, the more loving I felt towards myself. My rates in my business that I had set embarrassingly low. Before I actually raised them about 500%. I stepped into my power. And the most important thing was that I realized that Aleya Harris, little or big, is worthy. She is loved, loving, and lovable, regardless of what her father said or did. I am worthy of unconditional love. Thank you.